like flying by.
Oh, I see Indonesia.
Yeah.
Matt, there's already a question. They're asking, is today's shirt also vintage?
It is. This is not an Etsy find though. This was one I found in a vintage store in Orange County.
So fancy, Matt. I have my best T-shirt on.
You do, and you're what ocean are you fishing at right now behind you?
This is in Florida, so I'm fishing for yellowtail tuna this morning.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think we're letting a lot of people filter at this point, so I think we can get started. So as people do come in, we thought it'd be a good idea to just kind of go through our panelists this morning to introduce yourselves so everyone knows kind of what you do with the studio and then kind of your very brief path to Disney before we get into the actual department. So Grizz, would you like to kick us off and let us know a little bit more about you?
Yes, I was born and raised in Jakarta, Indonesia. I moved to Riverside, California 1 week before turning 16. And then I went to college thinking that I wanted to be an accountant. I had an internship at American Express, financial advisor, and that's where I realized that I do not want to be an accountant and I want to be an artist instead. I went to Art Center, College of Design. While I was there, I had an internship at DreamWorks as an academic PA or an unpaid PA. And that was a really great experience because I learned how hard it is to be a PA. And I really learned that it is so important to stick to the schedule. Finished Art Center, graduated valedictorian. Then I worked at DreamWorks for 10 years. And while I was at DreamWorks, I was also teaching at Art Center under BISCOM 5. It is a product design realistic rendering class. And I stopped teaching because I want to help out more others. So I start mentoring. And then after a while, I stop mentoring. Then I start posting my tips online because I feel that way I can reach and help more people. And Norm is doing that also. And we've been doing it for, I don't know how many years now. And now I'm an artist at Walt Disney Animation Studios for the past 5.5 years.
Woo! Give it up for Grizz from home, everybody. James, would you like to go next?
Yes, so my name is James Woods, and I'm a character designer at the studio. I think I share that common story like everybody where I always wanted to work in animation since I was like 4 years old. And I was always that kid at school who would be drawing like anime frescoes on the table instead of like paying attention to the teacher, which isn't the right way to do it. And I then eventually went to art school in the UK for about 3 years. And then in 2013, after about another 3 years of applying, I was accepted into the studio internship at Disney. I then went back to school for a year and was picked up by Paramount Animation, which is actually where I worked on my first feature with April over here. Did that for about a year or so, then went back to the UK, was then picked up to work on Poppins, Mary Poppins Returns in 2016 with my Paramount production designer, Jeff Turney. And I then transitioned from over there into Disney Animation in 2017 to work on Frozen 2.
And April?
Hi, my name is April Liu, and I am an environment designer. I've been working in feature animation for 6 years now. I think I wasn't sure if what I wanted to do growing up until actually like 11th grade. So I kind of decided late. And then I went to CalArts, California Institute of the Arts, to study character animation. And they have this really great annual portfolio day / job fair event that's open to students of like all years. So in my second year, I tried participating, and that's how I got my first visual development job at Paramount Animation, where I worked with James. After that, I applied to do Viz Dev on this Chinese-American collaborative animated movie called Wish Dragon. And I worked on that movie for like 3 years, like from beginning to end. So I got to see how you make animated movies from start to finish, which was really good for like just my experience. And I even got to work in China for like 6 months, which was super awesome. And then thankfully, when that project started winding down, the timing just worked out. Disney had a position open on their website. Always check the website. And I applied, and that's how I got here.
So for those who weren't in the talk yesterday, brief intro for me. I'm Matt Roberts. I am the front-end artistic recruiter for Disney Animation. So I'm the one who works very closely with the visual development leadership whenever we're hiring to assess portfolios and then kind of find and decide who's the best possible talent that's going to be right for the needs we have at any given time. So I'm kind of more the assistant moderator today. I'm going to kick it over to Kelly, who's going to be calling most of the question shots for our hour together. So Kelly, please introduce yourself to everybody.
Okay, hello everyone. I have the best job in the whole wide world. I'm the artist manager for the art department. And I have the great honor of working with all of these amazing, talented people. And the most important part of my job, I would say, is being the artist advocate, is really understanding each of our artists and their passion, their skill set, their goals for their craft, if they want to go into leadership, and then helping in the casting process with the production designers and the directors to build a crew on each film and each project that really highlights that artist's superpower and skill set to make the most amazing movies that we can make. I also keep an eye on the composition of the department, and with Matt, make sure that we have the right number of skill sets to feed the process in all of the movies and all of the projects that we have going in our house, in our mouse house. Should I go on into the department, Matt?
Yes, please. Tell everyone about the structure.
So we have about 28 to 34 artists in the visual development department. And we hire for the studio. We do not hire for show or projects. A crew can consist of anywhere between 12 and 16 artists with a variety of skill sets. We have a production designer, art director for character, art director for environment, associate production designer. We have costume designers and character designers, environment designers, color and lighting specialists. That is the composition of a team on a show. And you can either be on that movie for 1 to 3 years or several months, or you may even just pop on as a guest star for a few weeks. It is all dependent on the needs of the movie. And at any one time, we have 3 productions, 3 features in play in different stages, one ramping up, one in the middle, and then one in Hellfire. And then we have shorts, and we have streaming now, and we have development. So there's plenty to do for all of these talented folks. Did I cover everything, Matt?
I think so.
I think so.
Can you tell us, Kelly?
I think I did. If you have questions, you'll ask me at the end. Now, the part you really wanted, the people you really want to hear from is our amazing panelists. So we're going to ask each one of them to speak about their specific area and tell us a little bit about how that goes. So I think we're going to start with you, April. Tell us about set design and environment design.
Okay, for environments and sets, there is a huge range of things that you get to do, and it all just depends on how far the movie is in production. So if on average an animated movie takes like four years to complete, then over the course of those 4 years, the assignments you get will change a lot, which I think is actually really fun. So for example, in the first year at the start of the movie, environment artists, you get to do a lot of concept art. You get to like paint actually characters doing things and story moments. And you basically just make a lot of fun and imaginative drawings and paintings to show the director what you think the movie could look like. Because at this point, they don't really know yet, and they need help visualizing it. And I think this is what people think of when they think of visual development, is like the fun and pretty paintings. But okay, some time passes. Now it's like your second year or your third year. Now the script is more finalized. So the environment artists, they need to build the sets in the script. Typically you get like some time to do some research and just do some cool concepts. Like if the script says the characters are on a mountain, you know, you might research like coolest mountains on Earth, and then do like some random concepts. And then once your idea is approved, now you have to packet your design, which means breaking it down into like buildable instructions, basically. Because you're going to pass your design on to these modeling departments who are actually going to make it in CG. And this is where your job gets very detailed. It gets very like almost architectural, because you have to do like top view and side view, front view, 3/4 view. You have to do a lot of like texture painting and material call outs. And you have to do like a lot of labeling and writing in this part too, because it's like you're really making instructions. If it's a modern movie and you're doing a lot of the buildings and like a modern prop, like a microwave, your job can feel like you're drawing those IKEA furniture instruction things. But if you're doing like a nature movie, it's the same thing. Someone has to design all those trees and all those rock shapes and plants and flowers. Then the next step for environment artists would be to work collaboratively with the modeling department, because now as they're making your stuff, they might have questions. Maybe they didn't understand your artwork. Maybe they just need help making your vision come to life. So you're going to draw over their models, like over screenshots and stuff. At this point, like senior environment artists will also help with lighting. And then in the last year of the movie, like year 4, your assignments become extremely tedious and random. Like at this point, the movie is just trying to hit a deadline, and you have to do anything you can to help. So maybe they added something to the script last minute. Maybe they forgot a prop and you need to draw it like ASAP. Maybe you need to fix a set that's looking really ugly in CG, and you got to add some pizzazz or some designs. You get to do really random stuff like all the signs and billboards for like Big Hero 6 or Zootopia City movies. And also just like sometimes you get to work on end credits or like marketing posters. It's all over the place. Every week is different.
Thank you. Thanks, April. How about you, James? Tell us about character design.
So as a character designer, you're pretty much responsible for designing the entire visual of a character. So it goes from like everything from like body, face, costume, hair. And so at the beginning of a film, the director will give the crew of artists like the script, and we read through it, and we're assigned a character like that week or something to design. It could be a single character, or it could be like an entire cast of background characters. But we read through the script and start to kind of gather who that character is. We're given prompts by the director, and then we go off and we start to do as many drawing variations of this character as possible. So I don't know, in a week maybe we'll present maybe 10 to 15 designs to show to the director at the end of the week. But I say that as like a character designer, we're almost like a visual casting agent. So we will provide the director with a whole lineup of like animated drawn actors, which then the director picks from. They'll give us notes on the drawings that we provide, and then we'll go back and address those notes. And eventually we'll have the character visually signed off on. And as April said, we then have to start to packet these characters. So it's almost like doing a blueprint of who these characters are. We have to do a drawing turnaround of them from like every angle, every awkward angle. We have to break down all of the little details on their bodies. So if they have like a specific like cuff detailing, or Griselda can speak to this later, like a specific costume note that needs to be called out because there's something very specific in the shape, we have to go in and show exactly how that is structured. We then have to do like expression sheets for the riggers so that they can make sure that the character model like pushes and pulls in all the ways that you want it to, and make it look designed and art directed. So there might be a certain crease you want on the cheek, or a certain way that one of the muscles in the face or the elbow crease kind of makes a specifically designed shape. So we have to do drawovers of that to then get to the riggers. And yeah, eventually all of these teams kind of come together, and the model is passed off to the animators to be animated. and it's all of these people working together to get the final product on the screen, but it kind of starts with the designers figuring it all out. I hope that answers that question.
Whew, yeah, hard work. Griselda's going to talk to us a little bit about costume design. She does a lot of things, but she has been focused on costume design. So talk to us a little bit, Griselda.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Kelly and James and April. As James and April were saying, there's so much packaging when it comes down to production. This is where drawing skill becomes really, really important, like basic foundation skill. You have to be a fast draftsman. That part really shows. But anyway, I'm going to step back and talk about my approach. When I'm approaching, whether it is environment design, costume design, character design, I approach them with the same principle. It's all about storytelling and about supporting the directors to tell their story. At this point, usually the production designer will have basic rules that are already established. So we know the perimeter that we can play with. I'm using Frozen 2 as an example for all my answers today because the movie is out and it's safe and we can talk about it. I always ask basic question. I am a big fan of basic foundation skill. It's always about who, what, when, where, and why. Always take consideration of the story. What is the emotional state of that character is going, what type of action, where is taking place, what is the weather, the time of day, all those questions. And one of the very important thing for designing costume is that we need to know how many times we will see the costume. The more screen time that we have means that the more intricate design that we can go to, and that's probably the one that we're going to design first. For Frozen 2, the first one that we designed is the travel costume. After being issued by the directors, me and our production designer, Michael Giammo, we would then discuss what is Michael looking for, because he is basically the main architect for the whole movie. And then after that discussion, then I do research. I do tons of research. And the best part about my job is that online shopping is part of research, which is great. And on top of it, I also always check in with my other teammates, like Lisa Keen, who is our co-production designer, making sure that the costume will look good in the environment. What is the color of the environment? And then, checking in with David Wormsley, who is the environment art director, to see what are the iconography that are being designed. All our iconography is being designed by the master, Mac George. He is amazing artist. I absolutely love him. And then also really talk closely with Bill Schropp, our character art director, and Brittany Lee, who is designing Elsa's costume, to make sure that Anna and Elsa both speak within the same language. And after all that, I do some sketches, then present them to Michael Giammo again. Then we talk about it, we noodle more about it, and when we're happy with the design, then we will present them to the directors. And,
Woo!
yeah. I know I feel like every answer is such a mouthful.
No, it's just such a really detailed process. So your work is very, very collaborative, to say the least. Can you talk a little bit about how you work as a team and the feedback process? And Griselda, can we start with you? And maybe you have some examples of that, I think.
Yes, absolutely. The great thing about Anna, not quite yet, Matt.
Oh, okay.
Not quite yet.
Spoiler!
Right, yes. The great thing about our studio is that all the production happens within the house. So it is very collaborative. I do get to work with the whole character team that consists of the modeler, the character 2D team that is rigging, sims, and tech anim, look artist, and animator. Because one of the very important things that we need to make sure that the outfits are animatable, and cloth behave the way that it should behave, because it's all about believability. All those cloths, they don't just drapes naturally. Everything is art directed. For Frozen 2, we were looking a lot at Sleeping Beauty, because Sleeping Beauty is, Michael Giamo's favorite animated movie, and it just happens to be mine too. So knowing that we are looking back on our classic movie is really awesome. And as I said, it's all about the animatable. And then when I'm designing Anna, I know that Anna and Elsa's personality is very different. Elsa is very stoic, very stern. When Anna, she talks with her hands. She's always like moving around. So we want to make sure that we are going to give the performance for the animator that the animator can play around with that. And one of the things that I'm going to show you is that the packet that I did for Anna's travel costume. And talking about collaboration, that cape gives so much headache to us because the cape, that type of cape, if you want to show it, Matt, that type of cape that Anna is wearing is usually very closed in, and the opening is very small. So you can only do this when in our movie, Anna have to be able to do this, and because we know that it's an action movie where she has to run around and she has to be able to grab anything. This one is the art the final art that got picked. This one is version 122. Most people only see this beautiful costume, and then what we do from this costume, we will break it down. The next one, as you can see, is I first start doing turnaround with the cape and without the cape. And from this, I would break it down to how it's being made, because we are using, what's that program called, James?
The
Marvelous Designer.
Yeah.
So we can actually build this. So all this outfit, you can actually build this in real life, and this would be really haute couture outfit. And then we break it down into the embroidery to the point that we are showing direction of the stitches, because our look artist actually stitching this one by one digitally. And then we break down into every component that we have, the clasps, the pins, and then the last one that I have as an example. Oh, one more. And then the bag that has the sash that has the same graphic pattern as Christophe Sass, so we know that they're a couple. And the belt this is a fun one. This is Michael's favorite belt. His idea is that this is an Ogi belt. This is a Japanese belt. Even though Anna is all about Arendelle and she's always embracing about Arendelle, someone, let's say a dignitary from Japan, gave her a gift and she's incorporating it in her outfit to show that she is open to the world. So this is a symbol that she opens up to the world. So I thought that was a cool little insight story. And last but not least, my favorite, shoes. And I am a big fan of color sole. And you can actually see the color sole on her boots when she's jumping off the cliff. And I'm so happy when Hyunmin did that. I'm like, thank you so much, Hyunmin. I love you. Hyunmin is the lead animator for Anna. So that's my part.
Wow. Thank you, Griselda.
Absolutely.
James, you want to talk about your collaborative process and feedback?
Yeah, so with the character team, I mean, essentially, we all want to be working together, like cohesively, to create a cast of characters that all look like they belong in the same universe and the same world. And so pretty early on, and like Griselda was saying, Michael Giaimo on Frozen 2 was our production designer. He did this kind of like style art guide pitch for us at the beginning of Frozen to establish some of the iconography and style language that we would be going for, so that like the Sleeping Beauty classic like clean silhouettes, And so as a team, we're all kind of working with this the same mentality on our designs. The feedback process would be, we would be like launched on a character at the beginning of the week, and then maybe 3 times during the week, or 2, 3 times during the week, we would have what we call like a desk side critique, where the team would come by. That's the art director of character, the production designer, and the production soups come by just to see how we're doing with our work, and we'll kind of talk through what we're doing at that moment. Everything at this stage can be pretty rough. It's pretty kind of as it's happening on the screen on our Cintiqs. We'll be kind of pitching to the leadership team that's next to us, and we can make adjustments in that quick meeting. And then all of the feedback that we're given in these desk site critiques are then working towards our pitch at the end of the week, which will be in one of the review rooms with about 20 people, our work projected on like a giant screen. And we're having to pitch our way through our work with supporting like inspiration boards, references, et cetera, trying to sell our designs. And in these rooms, we're kind of open to all of the critique possible. You have to have pretty thick skin, I think, in this profession, because you're working like 9 hours a day on these drawings, and you're putting kind of your heart into everything, with the expectation that everything is going to be critiqued and picked apart for the final like perfect image that suits the movie. And so we'll be given feedback, whether it's, the character doesn't quite suit the brief at that moment. Can you make an edit on this part of the face, et cetera, or whatever notes that they have for the character at that time. And yeah, you have a list of notes to address, ready for maybe the next review the next week, or the next critique with the leadership in your cube. And hopefully, yeah, if you've addressed all of those notes and feedback and everything, then you'll have the character that the director really wanted for their movie. But yeah, it's a lot of iteration. It's a lot of fine tuning and nitpicking on small details. Yeah, I'd say that's like the feedback process.
Yeah, just to add to what James was saying, because I didn't know this before I started working, but you do have a really like scheduled process of getting feedback. Like he said, you're going to have at least 1 to 2 like desk check-ins where they come to your cubicle or office. And that's just for the supervisors on your team to like give you feedback, check on what you've been up to, because they give you your assignments and they're the ones who decide what you're going to work on. But they're not monitoring you 24/7, but you still have to check in with them pretty often. And only once they kind of approve the direction you're going in can you show it to your director at the separate director meeting. So that means that on average, you probably have at least like 2 to 3 meetings per week. And at every meeting, you're pretty much expected to show something to deliver the goods. And everyone is really understanding. They're very kind. Like your supervisors are also artists, and they're also under a lot of stress. So they're trying to support you. They want to work to your strengths. Like if you like to do cute paintings, or you like to do scary paintings, they try to give that work to you, but they do expect you to deliver on schedule. You can sometimes skip a check-in if you tell them like, I just couldn't draw this week, but most of the times, that schedule is moving. It's pretty demanding, and it's scary.
You're doing a great job, April.
Thank
you. Thank you for that. So
it's
now
fun, but it's scary.
Yeah, it's the scary part never disappear. That always like, oh my God, they need this yesterday.
Yeah, but I think
I feel like when I'm being launched, I always ask, hey, when do you guys need this? Last week.
Me too. I always ask as well. And I guess that's why it's good that we focus on this team aspect, because it can be very intimidating to have to deliver work and work with all these other artists who you feel like are so much better than you. But it's important to just focus on the fact that we are a team. We're trying to make a movie together. We all have different strengths. And actually, like every super amazing artist that I've ever met at Disney or elsewhere, they've always been so humble and so insecure as well.
It's
So
true.
Yeah, it's
yeah,
true. The only person that's very, very secure is just Manu Areda.
some artists are very secure, but in
Yeah.
general, I think we're all just trying to bring something to the table. But we are a team.
Yes.
And let's move to our next question. I want you to talk about how you pitch and present your ideas through the process. James, can you start out?
Yeah, so I think I touched on earlier on at the beginning of like a character launch, we'll be given sorry, I'm just seeing Kelly's dog popping in.
Howdy.
We'll be given like a pitch and like a rundown of the character. And my first instinct is to go online and start to Google different reference images or potential actors who I think could play that character, just to get kind of like a mindset of who they are and kind of visually have context to them in like the real world. And at the beginning, I'll create all of these kind of mood boards and reference boards, which then will be a part of my pitch to sell the character that I'm going to be trying to get the directors to buy off on. So you want to have like a lot of conviction and a lot of reasoning for why you put certain images in. And what I also enjoy about this part of the process is every time somebody pitches, everybody's different mood boards and inspiration are like very different, but very specific to that person. And it's not only a time for you to get to see how their mind is working, but it's also just kind of fun to see the kind of avenues that they're kind of pulling from. And that's where I think our individual voices really kind of come out. But yeah, so when you're pitching your work, you have to have a reason for everything, and you have to really delve into the specifics of the decisions that you've made, because I mean, especially at Disney, when these characters or environments and sets are going to be on a platform in the way that they are, we need to have done our research and make sure that they speak to not only the place that the movie is taking place in, but also just the reasons for the storytelling and the visuals behind everything. So the pitch process, we meet in a room, maybe like once a week, once every other week with the directors, and it'll be about 20 people in the room, but everyone from head of story to head of effects, head of animation, producers, a whole room of people basically. So I remember my first pitch at Disney was terrifying. And I think it's a pitch, well, I'm sure any studio pitch is terrible, but everyone remembers their first pitch. And eventually those nerves kind of go away, I think after 2 or 3 of those pitches, and it becomes pretty casual afterwards. You are able to like read the room and the atmosphere of what's going on. But yeah, you basically got to be able to sell, got to be the salesman for your work. And a lot of the time, we were talking about this earlier, you're presenting your work, but you have to have conviction behind every piece that you put in, because there's been times at Disney when I have stuck in like a really scribbly little doodle into my pitch that I didn't really like, but I was trying to be cheeky and look like I've kind of done more work. So I'm like sticking in like a little drawing just to say, okay, I've done more than I wanted, but because it's so scribbly and crappy, I'm like, they're never going to pick this piece. But it's always the doodle which you like the least and did in like, I don't know, 30 seconds that the directors respond to and pick. So it's a lesson in really owning and loving every design that you do, because odds are the one that you like the least is going to be the one that makes it into the movie. So yeah, have a reason and conviction for everything that you show. That's what I will say.
But yeah, like James said, don't take it personally if they don't pick your work or if they don't approve it. Like it's not personal. I've had a meeting before where I showed my assignment for that week and they're like, this is not even in the script anymore. And I was like, oh, that's okay. I had fun drawing it. And you show it on, just adding to what James said, not only are you in a meeting room with that can seat a lot of people, a lot of important people, but they show it on a projector that projects it to like this huge wall size screen. They really blow it up. So, you know, you do have to have some conviction, some confidence in what you did that week. And thankfully, they don't make you stand in front of the wall to like present it. I think they used to do that in the past, right?
We did that for Frozen too, right, James?
Yeah.
Oh, really? You
At
guys
the
stood up?
beginning, yeah, it was all like physical, like printed out pieces or like pinned up artwork, and you had to like point at like, I don't know, whatever's
Yeah.
going on, and it's very pitch
Yeah.
room. But luckily now you can kind of sit in the shadow in the background and just kind of talk from the
Yeah,
corner.
now you can just sit at the table and be like, this is what I did, and then just guide them through the presentation. But, you know, definitely good to have good speaking skills, good to be able to navigate that type of environment.
How about you, Griselda?
Same with James and April. I was surprised when we get to pitch our own ideas. At first I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I get to speak on my own mind. And then I go to the meeting and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is so scary. But you get over that after a while because you do it all the time. And that's the best part, that we do get to speak about our own ideas. And it really feels that I'm chipping in into the big movie, that I'm just not a risk, that I actually, hey, there's a part of me in the movie somewhere. So that part is really great. And about the conviction, yes, you absolutely have to believe what you are presenting. And on top of that, we do present our research because when we're designing, it's not just designing for the sake that it's pretty. It's because we have to be able to support the story, and whether it is time period accurate, whether it is culturally accurate, like we really have to know our stuff, because they will ask. Because you cannot just, for example, like Anna's travel costume, you cannot just put, oh, that's just Obi belt, but that's Japanese. We are inspired by Norwegian. But you know what? There's a story behind it. Why is he wearing a Japanese belt? So that you have to be able to speak to that. And yeah, it gets nervous, exciting, all in one bubble. And like James and April touches a little bit, like we all fall in love with all our work. Don't put anything that you feel okay, because they will always pick that one. And if they don't pick it, it's okay.
So you all have touched on this a little bit, but this question is about how do you handle the evolution of concept and doing different iterations leading to the final design? April, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so for sets, I think it's always good to do multiple iterations because, one, it's actually just the standard for the industry to, when you turn in your work, to offer multiple options. That's something you learn quickly because the directors like to have something to choose from. But also, part of the job is trying to almost read the director's mind, because they definitely have a direction they want to go in. Sorry, but they don't quite know what they're looking for. So naturally, you're going to have to go through a ton of concepts. They want to see specifically for environments like different silhouettes, different colors, different moods. Maybe you have like a really awesome, fantastical design, but after you show it to them, they realize like, whoa, that's really eye-catching. Let's like tone it down a bit. So it's this natural push and pull. But I also just wanted to add that I think doing multiple drawings and iterations of a concept is good for you as an artist, because if you get hired to work on a movie, they don't expect you to be like an expert at that movie. Like, say you get hired to work on Moana, but you like to draw cities and you never drew a tropical island or the ocean or anything. So naturally, it's going to take you like a few weeks to a few months on the production to get really good at, first getting all that research and then learning how to draw those things. And eventually your concepts are going to start getting just better and better. And sometimes you look back on your work at the beginning of a movie and you're like, ew, like, I could do so much better now because I have done so many iterations.
How about you, Griselda?
I do it with a smile because it's all about marathon running. And for Anna's travel costume, I mentioned it that the version that got picked was a version 122. So there was 121 version that sometimes have A, B, C, and D. That will never see the light of day, and I just have to keep reminding myself that this is what I'm trying to do is to make the story better. And the interesting part about animation is that at Disney we're very organic in the sense that the story is being written as we're designing. So when their story changes, we have to accommodate that.
Yeah. Yep.
And learning to let things go, even though you absolutely love certain design, that that is the emotional part that takes a lot of practice. And right now, if someone, the funny thing is that anyone at work can tell me, oh, change this, change that, no problem whatsoever. I'm just like, okay, you want to do how many more iterations? I'm like, sure, no problem. But if someone commented on my personal work about one itty bitty little thing, I got so angry. I'm like, oh no, you don't tell me what to do when this is on my own time.
How about you, James? How do you handle it?
Yeah, it's just about like letting go of ego and understanding that you're all there to help create the director's vision. You're not working on the movie because the movie's going to come out and it's showcasing this one specific part that you designed. It's a giant piece that you're basically being a hand to. And not only just that, the movie that you're making, but other people in the studio are going to be having to work with your pieces. So, when you send packets off down the line, when you are having to do expression sheets and all that kind of stuff, you want to make sure that your work is the best that kind of serves everybody in the studio for the job that needs to be done. And I don't know, I realize at work that I'm there to work for the studio, and I'm able to separate that from my personal work when I get time to do personal work these days. But it's just realizing that the film isn't about your drawing. The film is about the characters and the story and how are you helping to serve that.
Thank you, James. We're in such a weird time right now. The world is kind of crazy, and we're doing this very collaborative process, working now from home and remote. So I would love for each of you to talk about how you've adjusted to working remotely during this pandemic. James, you want to take first?
Yeah, I mean, I really struggled at the beginning. I'm someone that really likes routine and really likes seeing people. I know that at the studio, if I'm ever getting a moment where I'm in like a slump, I can always poke my head over my cube and like go and like Griselda is my office neighbor, so I can always poke my head into her room and like talk with her. Or April is in the cube behind me. I can always walk around and poke my head in and speak with people, and that always like invigorates me and refreshes me to go back and draw. So at first I really struggled. I really like seeing people. But after establishing some type of routine of, okay, I'm going to wake up at this time, have my breakfast at this time, I like wrote out my daily schedule on like a piece of paper and hung it next to my screen just to have some semblance of normality. Even like a couple of weeks ago, I got to dog sit, which then made me have to wake up even earlier to like have routine. But the actual work process is the same. We're still basically doing our assignments as we would do, having Zoom meetings to check in with everybody in the same schedule. It's just, it was definitely a time to adapt and I don't know, try and stay inspired inside the four walls that you live in. But I struggle just like everybody else. There's no secret to it. But I think routine is how I'm trying to keep a hold of everything.
Yeah, I think we all thought it was going to be maybe a few weeks, and it's
yeah.
a lot longer than that. April, how have you adjusted?
Thankfully, I have had experience, I think James, you have too, of freelancing from home for a period of time before, which is pretty common in the industry. If you ever get a chance to freelance, it's good experience. It's totally normal. So I was kind of used to working from home. I think a lot of artists already because it's your hobby as well, your passion, you'll have like a home workstation. So it wasn't totally new to me. I think there's a lot of really nice things about working from home lately, but one struggle that actually like it didn't really change from before we started working from home to now is that like it's really easy to bring your work home because when you're making a design, it just keeps like going in your head. Like you could be showering or cooking and you're still like, dang, I made that mountain really ugly, or like that is not the right mountain. So yeah, now that like working from home, I guess it's easier. It's easier to like just keep thinking about work.
Yeah, which is good and bad. Griselda, you've got some different challenges. I think we all have our own specific and unique ones, but how are you handling the remote situation?
It's really nutty, especially when Norm is also very busy. There are times when Norm has the same meeting as me, and then we just kind of like, okay, which one that has to present? If I'm just listening, then I would take, my son with me. But that part is the best part. Just being able to see him grow this past 6 months has been so amazing. When the pandemic happened, starting, I just start going back to work for like 3 months, and I wasn't really adjusting. I was going to Kelly's office a lot and crying and missing my baby. By the way, Kelly Hoover is everything to us. She is our champion. She is our manager. She is our casting agent. She is our
Therapist.
therapist. Yes. Yes, everything. And for me, going back to work after being off for 6 months, it was so emotional, and I was just so upset of how like of missing out so many things on Alex. And now, even though it's crazy, my schedule is crazy, I'm exhausted all the time. When we're super busy, when we're super full, Norm would wake up around like 4:30 or 5 in the morning, and then he would work until noon. This is our ideal schedule. And then around noon, we would stop and have lunch together quickly. Then we switch, and then I would work from like 1 till 6. Then we stop, go to our walk, walk of the day. For me, walking every day outside really helps. Not this week or this past few weeks, just because, of the smoke and the heat. And then around, have our dinner, give Alex bath and whatnot. And then I would start working again from like 10 till like, I don't know, 1 or 2. So Alex is sleep trained to go to sleep at 10, and he wakes up at 9 in the morning, which is great. I love that.
Did you mention who Norm is, Chris?
Oh, Norman is my husband. He is a story artist, head of story for Walt Disney Animation Studios also. And he is amazing. I cannot do this without him. Absolutely not. It is just so hard. Like, talking about hard work. Working at Disney is so hard because you put so much of your emotion in it. But being pregnant, adding hormones on top of it, it just takes it to another level. It's really hard. Norman was already working at Disney before I joined Disney, and he used to work long hours all the time. And I'm always like, I don't understand why you work long hours all the time. And then I joined Disney, and I get it.
Awesome. Hey, Matt, what's our time like? Do we need to go to Q&A, or do you want to?
We're running tight. Well, I think we might go just a little bit over. We want to get a few questions in, but I think we can do speed round for the remaining info that we wanted to share with our.
The last question, yeah, that was just for you guys to talk a little bit about the programs that you used, the tools you used to do your job. April, you want to start?
Sorry, I muted. Okay, the standard is still, we draw on Cintiq, we use Photoshop, and pretty much everyone does that for visual development in the industry still, except sometimes you have rare occasions of people using other apps, or maybe even like recently some people at Disney were using Copic markers and scanning it in and then painting on Photoshop. So there's some traditional tools too.
So
Griselda.
oh, go ahead.
Me?
Yeah, what do you use?
Sorry. I use mainly Photoshop for production. For blue sky, sometimes I do like to sketch on pen just because I cannot undo. Otherwise, I just undo all the times. Sometimes I still love to paint with gouache, but not, I don't always get that chance. And lately, what I've been loving is the iPad. Oh my goodness, this is so nice to be in my bed at night and just sketch on the iPad. That part is great. But when it comes down to packaging and actual production work, you have to do it in Photoshop.
What about you, James? Anything new or different that you use?
I'm pretty much all Photoshop, aside from I'll have like a stack of like paper at the side of my desk just to like doodle things onto. But my production work is all Photoshop. But I need to get into the iPad because I'm sure the attendees are aware of like Paul Felix. Like he does a lot of his rendered paintings on an iPad now, which is insane. The
Crazy.
capabilities of it are, yeah, insane. So I need to get my head around that. But I'll never be Paul.
Oh, baloney.
No other mortal will. So yeah, before we get to at least a few questions from the audience, now that everyone's heard about how amazing and emotional and involved that our visual development department is, they might be thinking, how do I get to join said department? If you were in the talk yesterday, we are currently hiring for a couple roles. We're looking for pro environment designers and character design trainees. But we wanted to kind of hit up the panelists and just kind of hopefully elaborate on the talk we gave yesterday. But what do each of you want to see in a portfolio when someone applies? James, we can start with you.
I think the two main things are, one, like a distinct voice. What are you going to be bringing to Disney animation that Disney doesn't already have? But also, for instance, if we're like looking at character design portfolios, we want to see that it's like a character focused portfolio and not like suddenly putting in environments. Like at Disney, we do get to jump around a little bit into different roles early on in the development process, but really when you're in production, you're working just on character or just on environment or sets, props, etc., etc. So we want to see like a clear direction in the portfolio, as I said, voice, draftsmanship, because we're having to do these turnarounds and drawings which need to be built in 3D by other people to follow. So I guess like clarity, conciseness in your drawings, because these drawings are handled by so many people. Yeah, I think that's the main things to look for.
Yeah, I think a tip for Disney is they do really prioritize like strong draftsmanship and good line work. The styles at Disney do vary a lot, but I think this studio particularly, maybe it's like just their legacy as like just as Disney, like it really helps if you can draw and do really good line work.
Yeah, like when looking at portfolio, doing great draftsman, great foundation skill is very important. But on top of it, having a unique voice, because people do want to have personality and uniqueness. They don't want to just have like a copy of this person. Why would we have a copy of James when we already have James, or a copy of April when we already have April? They do what they do their best already. So the great thing about the FizDev artists is that you can see everyone's work, that they all have their language, they all have their specific uniqueness. But when it comes down to production, every single person knows how to take their unique personality and make it into the CG world. So that part is really, really good. And also really think about what can you do to help the production, meaning that having packaging pages would show you that you can break down those sets or those characters or those costumes. So that is very important to put in your portfolio.
Yeah, I've seen some portfolios where I'm like, oh, I wish I could see what their packaging looks like, or have encouraged people to put in some type of packaging, just because it's great to see Blue Sky work, but that's a really small part of the process. It's the first, what, maybe like 20% of the entire job. So I'll see like great portfolios with like really beautiful expressive pieces, but if it's missing like the packaging, like model turnarounds, breakdowns, all of that kind of stuff, then that applicant is almost a bit of a question mark, because we need to know if we're able to do that as well.
Mhm.
So we'll do one more question before we go to the audience. I'm going to gear this one to you, Grizz. How much does timing and persistence factor into getting hired on top of your artistic talent?
I see where, right, I forgot to mention that. Thank you, Matt. So I always want to be a Disney artist. Ever since I was little, my favorite movie of all time is Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty. But it was one of those things that I don't think I could ever do it, because coming from a traditional Southeast Asian family, usually we are encouraged to do something along the family business or something in finance and whatnot. That's why at first I wanted to be an accountant. But then I realized that I'm like, nope, I'm not, this is not me. I really, really want to be an artist. So went to art center, and then we always have this during graduation. The great thing about schools like CalArts or Art Center, they always have industry day where recruiters would come and visit the school and really look at your portfolio and give you feedback. And the first time I met a recruiter from Dawn from Disney, it was when I graduated. And every time I applied, there's nothing available, nothing whatsoever. And at the time, not at the time, at DreamWorks, we always have contracts. Disney, we don't have contracts. DreamWorks, they have like 2-year contract, 3-year contracts, and so on and so on and so on. And every time I applied, nothing. And then when Disney called, I just signed my contract. I can't do this. And it just happens like 10 years later, the time is lining up. And that's when I got my first interview. And yeah, and then after my first interview, it really happened so quick. It happened within 2 weeks. Like from like, okay, this is your interview. No, the phone call. From the phone call to the interview to the offer, it all happened in 2 weeks, to the point that I'm like, I don't know what to do. This is crazy. Is this really happening? And it was around Christmas time, because I remember calling Matt Roberts, like from Quebec. Like on December 23rd. It's like, it's so crazy. Yeah. So yeah, Matt Roberts works so hard. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how you have, seeing so many people's portfolio, and yeah, it's crazy. But anyway, yeah, persistence. Be persistent.
Yeah, like, don't expect like necessarily Disney to be your first job out of school. Like, some people that they're very lucky that happens, but just know if you're tenacious and you're taking our feedback, it is going to happen. Like, I used to complain like it took me a year of interviewing with Disney to get in, but yeah, Grizz like taking a decade when she knew this was the final goal. Like, if you're patient, it is going to pay off.
Yeah, and I am always pinching myself, not so much when I go to the hat, because I don't associate the hat being Walt Disney. I associate Disneyland being Disney, because for me, all the animated movie and all the live action movie and all the TV shows, all shot in Disneyland. That's my, the inner little girl. So when I go to Disneyland and I see the parade, I would just start crying. I don't know how to stop it. It's I can't wait until I go back to Disneyland again someday.
Right?
Someday.
Yeah. I get emotional too if I'm watching like the fireworks displays. That's like about all the films, because it's just, you feel like you're part of the legacy. No
Absolutely.
matter what you do. I mean, all of you are actually creating the worlds and the characters that are actually being featured in like the parks and the films. I'm just looking at portfolios and I feel connected to the films we do. So I mean, I think like whatever role you have in the studio, you are part of the filmmaking, and that's just a really cool, just amazing experience to have. Like, because I don't think every workplace has that emotional investment in what you make. So yeah. So we're coming at time, so I want to give at least 3 questions. So looking at the comments, I know a lot of people have been eyeing Erica like she's Daniel Craig sitting in the back of the room and like Knives Out. So formal introduction, Erica is my co-recruiter at Disney Animation. So she's been the one kind of monitoring the questions. So Erica, give us the top 3 best questions.
So hi everyone. Yes, hi everyone. The good thing is Kelly did an amazing job and asked a lot of the questions that the audience was wondering about. So kudos, Kelly. I guess top 3, maybe we could do it light speed round. 1, what was the most surprising thing you learned on the job that you didn't know before getting hired at Disney?
For me, it's pitching your ideas.
Yeah, pitching and packaging.
Yeah, I did not know the huge range of things that you would end up doing. I thought you just drew pretty pictures. That's only in like I said, year 1 or maybe year 2.
Right.
Awesome. Next one. What kind of things do you like to add to your design to tell a story, whether for character, environment, or otherwise?
For environments, it helps to just draw in the character. Like, that's not really your job, but just put it in, and people's eyes are just drawn to it, and they're like, "Ooh, that character is doing something in that environment." This applies to portfolio too. Put the character like a tiny one or something.
For me, when I'm doing costume, it really is the posing and the attitude. That don't just like draw a costume on like a T-pose like this. And it's a balance, because you don't want to like draw your costume, completely sideways. It's like 3/4 is good, or it's some kind of pose is good.
Yeah, I feel like my best designs are the ones where I'm imagining the character saying a line or doing something specific to the movie, and then drawing with that intention. They seem to happen like 3 times quicker, and because you're making decisions in the drawing that actually cater to the movie. So putting your character in context, and that goes into what April was saying as well about putting them in the environment, but always drawing, whether it's a line of dialogue or just something in your mind and drawing to that.
Yeah, drawing based on the story. Yeah.
And then tips for a great personal biz dev project. Tips on how to really hone in on a biz dev personal project.
Stick to it.
Yeah. I mean, I think for my portfolio, I did like a personal biz dev project where I took like a original story or whatever, I think I even did like a reimagining of like Alice in Wonderland or something, and treated the process of making that as if it were like a film. So I did lots of like initial sketches to story moments, and then like more kind of tied down characters. But with the personal project there, I wanted to treat it like it was a film, to then put in my portfolio to show that I could kind of handle that process, or where it would fit into the workflow.
I actually did the same, like James. I took the book that was very popular at the time. It was Tale of Despero. So I took that book and I put it in a Balinese style, because it is a style that I know very closely, to give a new twist and pick several moments from the movie. I always go basic. You go to the intro, journey, and climax and resolution. And I think I did 2 paintings on the journey itself. So I have 5 paintings. And from that, I break it down into the environment sets. I break down a couple paintings. And then I did the character, and both of the 2 main characters, and I break it down also. That's what I did.
Awesome. I just want to highlight there was so much love in the chat. I know you were all busy with your talks, but there was love for each one of you, for your backgrounds, for your stories that you shared. So I guess maybe Matt, the last question, I know it was 3, but really quickly, any last words for the audience who are really excited to be here with you all today?
Well, we're equally excited to have all of you. I saw at the peak we had 2,100 people watching this, so glad to have been able to reach all of you from all over the world. I do want to thank you, Erica, for handling Q&A. Kelly, thank you for being the most amazing moderator ever.
Loved it, loved it.
April, Grizz, and James, thank you for being so amazing and sharing your craft and your wisdom with everyone today. Remember, we are hiring, so if you want to join Grizz, James, and April, apply on DisneyAnimation.com for environment design and or character design apprentice. If you're interested in our TALDEV program, we're actually going to have another panel this afternoon, so check us out there. But really, I just want to thank our panelists today because you've just exhaustively given so much info and done it so generously, and again, with so much experience and wisdom that, yeah, I really hope everyone who's out there kind of tuning in has been inspired, because I work with you all and I feel elevated just from this past hour together. So
Absolutely.
right? So,
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us and listening to us blabbing.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. My last word is just, I did not graduate college. It's okay to not have a degree. And also, yeah, you might apply for many years. Just keep trying.
Yeah, I think all of us applied like multiple times. Like I applied 3 times to the internship and got rejected. Some of our artists were rejected from internships altogether. Some were rejected from art schools altogether. So just keep applying and keep being persistent and passionate.
Timing.
I mean, yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Hopefully we can do this in person next year. But in the meantime, stay safe, keep working, and hopefully we'll see you at the studio.
Love you guys.
I love you
Love
too.
you too, Kelly.
Yeah.
You guys.